This is the PM1 from a somewhat new brand called Sprime gaming gear. When I say somewhat, I mean that Sprime is most likely a sister brand of another brand people know and love, and that would be Ninjutsu. With that being said, expectations are very high, as Ninjutsu makes some very high quality and great mice like the Sora V2. Let's first start off with what's packed into this mouse. The main switches are one of my favorite switches at the moment, and those would be the optical switches from Omron. Just like most of the other releases this year, the PM1 is using a Pixar 3395 for the sensor and a Nordic NRF 52840 for the MCU, allowing the mouse to not only go up to 4000 Hz, but all the way up to 8000 Hz when we are talking about the polling rate. Let's take a pause from the specs for a quick second and let's just have a little talk about the dongle that is included in the box. On first glance, you might think that it supports polling rates higher than 1000 Hz just because it falls right in line with the other 4K dongles when it comes to the appearance and size of it. Well, sadly it doesn't. This dongle only allows the mouse to go up to 1000 Hz and that's it. It's quite disappointing that a mouse that is marketed at going all the way up to 8000 Hz doesn't even come with the required things to allow to do so. Ninjutsu has done this as well with their Sora V2. One of the biggest things that was marketed was the 8000 Hz wireless, but once again the dongle for that doesn't even come in the box. The mouse in wired mode only goes up to 1000 Hz. I'm not sure if this is a bug or a feature that isn't unlocked yet in the software, but it's quite disappointing to see. The weight of the mouse is 43 grams, which is super light for a mouse of this class, and that's all because it's using a fiber composite for the shell, which they boast brings the weight down while making the mouse stronger. The construction and overall quality of this mouse is pretty much perfect, except for one thing. Quality on the shell is great, pretty much no flexing or creaking on the left, right, and top of the mouse. Like I said before, this mouse is using the optical switches from Omron, and the implementation of them is pretty much perfect. They have a very nice light and tactile feeling to them. There's pretty much no pre-travel, and there's a bit of post-travel that changes depending on where you click the trigger. The worst part of this mouse when it comes to quality has to be the side buttons. The overall feel of them is very nice when you are clicking in the middle of the button. Just like the main switches, they do have a very light and tactile feel to them. Click anywhere else on the button and the button has some of the worst post-travel I have ever seen. The backside button shows this the most, as it pretty much just sinks right into the shell of the mouse. I don't see this as an issue in game unless you are pushing the front of the side button with a lot of force. The coating on this mouse is not going to be for everyone, especially if you are someone with drier hands. At first I thought this mouse had no coating and I was just feeling the raw plastic of the mouse, but it's a coating that does take a bit to warm up. Once it's warmed up, it does provide an adequate grip, but I do still see the need for grips as the coating is far from perfect. The stock skates that come pre-installed on this mouse are just fine. They'll absolutely just get the job done. These aren't pure PTFE skates, but rather dyed PTFE skates, but in my experience they felt pretty decent, still plenty fast, and I had no issues at all when using a glass mouse pad. If you couldn't already see, this is an Ergo mouse. More importantly, this is one of the few smaller Ergo mice on the market. The shape is a weird mix between an asymmetrical mouse and an Ergo. The sides of the mouse are flatter than a normal Ergo mouse. The hump on the top of the mouse just looks like it was ripped off a Superlight when looking at it at certain angles, which I think in total doesn't make the mouse super restrictive for certain grip styles. When I was using this mouse, I was pretty comfortable using this mouse with a claw grip and a fingertip grip. Because the sides are so flat, I can comfortably place my fingers on the left and right sides of the mouse without it feeling awkward at all in game. When comparing the Sprime to something like the Lamsu Form, which is another smaller Ergo shape on the market, you can tell right away that the sides are flatter and the hump on the top of the mouse looks more like a traditional asymmetrical mouse. The button height is also lower on the Sprime, making for a great mouse for fingertip grip. If you are someone that uses claw grip, the Sprime is a decent choice. The back of the Sprime is a decent bit flatter, so it won't be feeling the back of your palm that much when compared to the Form. That was one of the main things I missed when switching from the Form to the Sprime. If you are someone with larger hands, I definitely can see people using this mouse with a palm grip, as Barzy mentioned in his video on this mouse. My final thoughts about the shape: it's an asymmetrical that wants to be an Ergo, which is a good thing. It allows for a lot of hand sizes and grip styles to be used with this mouse. The PM1 is one of the first few mice to have all the software online as a web driver, so you won't have to download anything at all. You can control everything straight from your web browser. On the first page of the software, you have the option to change all the functions of the clicks on the mouse. On the second page, you have all the important things. First thing is the option to change your DPI and set up DPI stages. There is no physical DPI button on the mouse, so the option to set up DPI stages just seems redundant to me. You do have the option to set up macros if you are someone that takes advantage of that. And last, you have the settings panel, which allows you to update the firmware of the mouse when needed. The software is still in beta, so a lot of things could change about the software, like maybe enabling the mouse to use higher polling rates when plugged in. If you are someone that's looking for a new lightweight small Ergo that will work with a lot of hand sizes and grip styles, this mouse might just be for you. I do think waiting for the 8K dongle is a smart move, especially if that's one of the features you are after. While I don't think it's main worthy for me, it's definitely a mouse I can see a ton of people picking up. So good job, Ninjutsu. My bad, I meant Sprime.